So, is Zionism against Judaism? Hello, you're watching the Tov Jewish News Channel. My name is Michael Wilensky, and my guest today is Hillel Fuld, a tech columnist and a Zionist activist. Hillel, great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So, we hear this very common talking point of anti-Zionist, anti-Israel activists that say that Zionism actually goes against Judaism. And for me, it's quite surprising because Zionism and Judaism are both very important elements of Israel's ideology. But do you think there is truth to that, that Zionism goes against Judaism?
Let's start with the fact that this is a fringe group of a small number of Jews who believe this. Of course, as always, the smaller groups make a lot of noise. That's true for the Israel haters, and that's true for the Jews. I call them as a Jew, because they always start with, as a Jew, I oppose Zionism. That's their kind of opening phrase. So first of all, it's a small number of Jews that, of course, the haters like to use and to leverage. Let's start with that. Number two, the claim foundationally at the most fundamental level is absurd. There's no other way to describe it. Every Jew for thousands of years has prayed to Zion, which means Jerusalem, which is something many people don't realize. Every Jew in the world has faced Jerusalem when they pray. Every Jew in the world has longed for thousands of years to come back to Zion. So the movement of Zionism, aka the movement to bring Jews back to their eternal homeland where they are indigenous, is at the core of Judaism. You know, just like anything is at the core of Christianity. Jesus is at the core of Christianity. Mecca is at the core of Islam. Jerusalem, aka Zion, is at the core of Judaism, and they cannot be separated. So if you separate those two things, as a Jew, if you separate Zionism and Judaism, then how can we blame the haters who say, oh, I'm not anti-Semitism, I'm not an anti-Semite, I'm only an anti-Zionist? Well, if we're separating them, what do we expect from them? Zionism is core to Judaism. Judaism without Zionism is not Judaism.
They say that Zionism is a recent development in, kind of the Jewish conscience. They say that Zionism is an ideology that sprouted in the 19th century with all the nationalist movements in Europe. Like, whenever all the European people got their nationalist conscience, Jews also did, and then Jews came to Palestine and colonized the poor Palestinians. What do you have to say about that?
I'd say open a history book. We can talk about this from 10 different angles. For starters, a country that was given to the Jewish people from the UN was given to the Arabs in the area as well. It's called the Partition Plan, and they attacked and they lost. So even if, let's go with the fact that the Jews don't deserve the land of Israel and the state of Israel, we were attacked, we won, just like any country in the world. So if we're colonizing Palestine, then America is colonizing their land, and England is colonizing their land, and every other country in the world is colonizing their land. So, the level of hypocrisy of people sitting on quote-unquote stolen land, preaching to us that we're on stolen land, is absurd.
So from the Jewish side, from our camp, let's call it that way, we see two different groups that adopt this narrative that Zionism is against Judaism. You talked about the first group, all the radical, ultra-Orthodox Jews that live, some in America and some in Israel, that are anti-Zionist, but also we see the progressive leftist Jews that live in privileged areas in the US, some of them also in Israel. And I want to ask you, as a Zionist activist, what do you have to say to those people?
I'll say that, they might feel like this is a novelty, that they're, representing, progressive ideals and values. But let's just be honest. In every generation, we had those. We had those Jews, back in ancient Egypt. We call it the Erev Rav. We had it in Nazi Germany, Jews who sided with the Nazis. This isn't a new phenomenon. We've always had Jews throughout history, throughout our generations, who sided with the enemy in the hopes that the enemy would spare them when exterminating the Jews. But we know that didn't happen. And, that the very concept of I'm going to, side with the enemies of the Jews, even though I'm Jewish, is not a new thing. It's a very sad and tragic thing, but it's happened throughout the generations, and it's happening today. And the truth is, the irony of, ultra-Orthodox Jews and progressive Jews seeing eye to eye is, again, it's comical, it's laughable, right? And we see this, in the political spectrum as well, right? The radical left and the radical right see eye to eye on one thing, and that is the hatred of Jews. So, it's absurd. It's an absurd claim. And their whole, progressive liberal value system that they think will make, the haters, the anti-Semites, like them more, has been proven wrong time and time again. So, they can pretend all they want. You cannot separate Zionism from Judaism. And again, I'm going to say it very clearly and unequivocally. Judaism without Zionism is not Judaism. I don't know what it is. It's a religion close to Judaism, but to say that Zionism and Judaism contradict each other is literally like saying, I'm against Mecca. I believe in Islam, but I'm against Mecca. I believe in Christianity, but I'm against the Vatican. It's absurd.